Welcome to Techstination. Joining us again is Finley Lee, the CEO of Exposure Software. Thanks for joining us, Finley.
Thanks, Fred, and good morning.
Well, we've had you on a bunch of times before, but this is the first time under the name Exposure Software. The company has rebranded from Alien Skin. Tell us a little bit about that before we talk about the brand new version.
Yeah, that's correct. We rebranded about 3 weeks ago, and the reason for it was to align the name of the company with our main product, which is the Exposure Photo Editor that we'll be talking about a little bit more. The name Alien Skin had a lot of history, and it was very relevant to graphic design, but we felt like we needed a name that spoke more to photographers.
And so Exposure is perfect.
Yes, indeed.
Well, give us for people who aren't familiar with the software you've had, give us a little background of how this evolved and what it is.
Exposure started out as a plug-in for Adobe Photoshop. And in its first incarnation, it was a film simulator. So its sole purpose in life was to make your images look like they've been shot on particular film stocks. And over the years, it grew, and we added a lot of new additional features, including darkroom special effects and overlays, and even got into general photo editing. And at a certain point, about 5 or 6 years ago, it became clear that a lot of people were using Exposure on every image that went through their studio, and that having a standalone version of Exposure would make a lot of sense in terms of efficiency and ease of use. So that was Exposure X, and now we are 5 versions in, and it's really a very complete and a fully functional photo editor at this point.
Tell us about what's new in Exposure X5.
Our biggest new feature in Exposure X5 is 3D color masking, and this allows you to very precisely control where image adjustments are applied. So you can specify that rendering happens in areas defined by hue, saturation, luminance. And what this lets you do is very easily target skies. You can quickly make a selection of an entire sky in an image, or skin tones, specific color ranges like greens of foliage, and a lot more. And one of the most exciting things about this feature to me is that you can define a preset for doing something like selecting skin. If you have a photo shoot where you're shooting a model and she's changing positions in the different shots, you can use that preset to target her skin and do an adjustment in every shot in that sequence of images.
That's under the portrait retouching category?
Yes, exactly. And it's useful for landscape photographers as well. You could do the same thing with a landscape image where you make an adjustment to the sky or to the trees in the image as well.
You also help people keep their images organized. Tell us about that.
That's correct. So Exposure is what we call a catalog-free image editor. And what that means is that the information about how Exposure's photos are edited are stored in small metadata files nearby the images. And this is a significantly simpler setup. It simplifies things like backups, and it makes it a more efficient process. You know, we don't have to have this slow database that keeps track of all of your images. It's just the little images nearby, or the little metadata files near your images.
Your customers are certainly a lot of professional photographers, but you've ranged well beyond that. Tell me about your customer base.
Well, Exposure is a useful photo editor for anybody with we like to say a detachable lens camera that edits photos on a computer. So that ranges from advanced amateur photographers to working professionals.
The learning curve that people might wonder about, tell us what they need to know about using Exposure.
It's very easy to jump in and start using Exposure. There's a familiar folder panel that allows you to navigate right to your images and start working. If you have some familiarity with other tools on the market, you'll find that Exposure has a very familiar and accessible interface that lets you jump right in and start working.
And you make it so easy in a lot of ways, one being the tutorials that you have online.
Yes. So we have a pretty extensive, at this point, collection of tutorials. We're producing them at a rate of about one a week, and they range for very practical information about how to do the basic adjustments to your photo, adjust, exposure, highlights, and shadows, to the much more creative features like how to use an overlay in a creative way.
And what's always been great is how quickly you see on screen the effects of what you're doing with the software. I'm not even sure how you accomplish that.
Performance is really important to us, and nobody likes to be waiting for their software to catch up to them. And we feel like, as a photo editor that really encourages creativity, we want to be able to have people adjust a slider and see the results immediately, so you can try a lot of different variations of effect. So you're rarely waiting on a progress bar in exposure. It's very quick.
Now, as you've increased the capabilities here, have the computing requirements increased? What should people know about the type of computer and horsepower that they need to run Exposure X5?
We try really hard not to increase the system requirements for the application as we do new versions. Now, that said, I believe that we did up the RAM requirement to recommending a higher amount of RAM in this version of Exposure. But typically, if you have a computer that is not older than 5 years or so, you're going to have fantastic results with Exposure, and it'll be very quick. And this is something that we're looking into in future versions, optimizing so that it's even faster. We'd like to take advantage of the GPU hardware that most people have in their computers, so that you can edit even more quickly.
Now, when does X5 become available to your customers?
It is available now. We released it just 2 days ago on Tuesday, and it's available at our website, exposure.software.
Exposure.software is the website, and people can try it out for free?
That's correct. There's a 30-day free trial which you can download, and it's fully functional, so you can try every feature of the product to decide if it's right for you.
And tell us about pricing.
Pricing is $119 for new customers, and for people who are upgrading from previous versions of Exposure, they can get the product for $89.
The site again is exposure.software. Finley Lee, thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Fred.
Cooking with the power of the sun. Hi, I'm Fred Fishkin, here to tell you about the latest innovation from my friend Patrick Sherwin and his great team at GoSun Stove. The GoSun Fusion has arrived using the company's tried and true reflectors and a solar vacuum tube to get you cooking without the mess of charcoal, heavy propane tanks, or smoke. A really bright idea. And with an optional solar panel and battery storage and the ability to plug in at home or on the road, you really can use the GoSun Fusion to cook anytime and anywhere, day or night, rain or shine. I love what Patrick and his team are doing, and so will you. Want to learn more? Head to gosun.co to check out all of the company's products and innovations, and use the code Techstination to save 10%. That's gosun.co.